Hi everybody, David Thexton here from ConsultX, and welcome to podcast number 12 of Everything Business Consulting, which is our weekly podcast. This weekly podcast is for those of you who are already a business consultant who want to improve their skills, are a sole accountant, or you own an accounting firm and want to introduce consulting services to your firm. You're an ex-corporate who wants to get out of the rat race and become a self-employed business consultant, or you've owned a business before and now want to use the skills that you've learned to help others in business. ConsultX is an online cloud-based consulting system that has everything you require to become a successful business consultant. If you'd like to find out more, the website details will be at the end of this podcast. Now, today we've got an interview with a gentleman in Australia called Steve Dodd. Steve has been with us for a little over 12 months approximately. He can tell us about that in a minute. And he's based in Brisbane in Australia, which is on the east coast. Are you there, Steve?
Hello, David. Yep, I'm here.
And you all fired up and ready to go?
Always ready.
Okay, great. You've been involved in business consulting for about 12 months or so. Is that correct, or was it a bit longer?
It's a bit longer. It's close to 2 years now. Probably about 19 months.
Oh, time flies when you're having fun.
Absolutely.
So can you tell us what you were doing before becoming a consultant?
Yes, of course. I guess I started my career in the Army. After I left the Army, I got into corporate, and I worked for a various number of corporates in the IT, construction, and gaming industries. Before I became consultant, I moved to Australia, and I was working in construction, and I was a general manager for a large construction firm, and really that business was on the rocks when I joined. I didn't realize they invited me over to take over as GM. The business had actually was in a lot of trouble. I didn't realize when I joined. When I joined, obviously, I got to see all the numbers in the book and the financial data, and the company was really in bad shape. And since then, this company's actually disappeared. It's closed down, went into liquidation. So I decided to leave corporate, and that's how I became a consultant.
And you saw obviously one of our communications, and you contacted us. So, what attracted you to business consulting?
Well, after Thomas and Carter, sorry, I probably shouldn't use the name. After the company closed, I wanted to start my own business. In the past, I'd owned my own business, and I'd managed to sell it and did okay out of it. So I did a very thorough due diligence. I wanted to get into my own business again, and I wanted to do a form of consulting. And I looked at every possible package or type of business or consultant business that was on the market. And I actually came across Thexton Armstrong originally from an advert from Seek, believe it or not. It forwarded. I wasn't looking for a job, but it actually forwarded it to me, and then I contacted David.
Yeah. Of course, everybody who's listening to this knows that our former name was Thexton Armstrong, and now it's ConsultX. So that's no secret to them. So tell us about your first 6 months, because you were probably, in fact, I think you are the fastest startup that we've had, and that's probably what I want to sort of concentrate a bit on today, is about your first 6 months, and the next question after that is about how you acquired clients. But you could probably wrap both of those questions together about your first 6 months. What did you do? How did you get clients? And those sorts of activities. Let us know that.
Absolutely. When I left corporate, the timing for myself was pretty good. I went straight over to New Zealand to do the training, which is where it was held at the time. We used to do face-to-face training in those days. Now, of course, it's all further advanced and online. So I went to the training. It was 6 days, very, very intensive training, bit of PowerPoint overload. And I arrived back after the 6 days in Brisbane. I was a little bit shell-shocked, but I'd actually put a plan. What part of the training was actually to put together a 13-week marathon plan.
Yeah.
And I guess being military, it's discipline, and I still these days really encourage my clients to have a culture of discipline. So I got back on the Monday. I drove around the area to see which areas I would like to work in, and I just followed the plan. I made sure that I had a plan and I stuck to it. And every day I'd followed the same activities that I'd planned actually on the training, all the way through my 13 weeks. Now, the nice thing about doing a plan is that you're allowed to change it, but at least you know what you're doing. Because when I started, within my first week, I'd actually had 4 meetings, and within my second week, I'd actually had 3 clients. My 13-week marathon plan went out the window because I was no longer having to do a number of cold calls or this or that for client acquisition. I was actually starting to do the meetings, the acquisition process, and by the second week, I was actually starting to do the actual consulting. And but what I did, which I think everybody should do if they get on board, is follow the system. I've been involved in many systems over the years, in corporate, my own business, and in the military. And if you follow the system, you will move forward. And if there's a problem with the system, then at least you know where the problem is. So yeah, that's what I did. And for the 6 month, it was very much a learning exercise. The acquisition process is fantastic. Once you get on board, if you follow the acquisition process, you will get clients. And then I went through the whole system. The ConsultX software, although the ConsultX system's been around for 10 years, the ConsultX software was fairly new then, so I had to get my head around how to use the actual ConsultX software. And I think now that I've got my head around it, and I believe it's very, very efficient. One of the things that it allowed me to do, which is really important, the ConsultX software allowed me to manage multiple clients at once, because I was doing acquisition, I was doing consulting, I was learning a new system, and I had 3, then 4, then 5 new clients. If I hadn't been able to plan my day and plan where I was with my clients through the software application, I think I would have really struggled. And that, to me, that was worth the value of getting involved in the actual process and systems.
I remember on the first day of training, you said to me, you made me promise. You said, David, you said, if I follow this absolutely to the letter, can you guarantee that I'll get clients? And I said, well, if you do that, then you will. And that's to your credit. That's what you did. You went out and you followed it, and it was the fastest startup that we've had, which means that other people who started with us didn't follow the program and the system that they were taught. And I was on a webinar a couple of weeks back, and I was giving the worst example of not following the system was a guy in New Zealand, who I won't mention his name. And in training, I said that you should spiral bind your proposals with one of those wire binders. And it was just a comment. It was just off the cuff comment. And I had one at home. Anyway, so 3 weeks later, I'm talking to one of the guys that came out of training, and I said, okay, how are you going? How many people have you seen? How many discovery meetings, diagnostics? He says, I haven't started yet. And I said, well, why is that? He said, I can't buy a wire binder. I go, what? He said, yeah, I've been everywhere. He said, they're bloody impossible to get. Like all the wholesalers and commercial suppliers in New Zealand haven't got it, but I've tracked one down in the United States and it's on its way out here. It's going to be 2 weeks. And I said, it wasn't, you didn't have to wait till you had a wire binder to get started. Anyway, that's the worst case scenario. And this guy was just an absolute procrastinator. And he failed in the end because he just, I rang him 6 weeks later and he was painting his office, so it's really, I think it's really important after you come out of training to hit the ground running. And we added in late last year some more features to the training. We called it the 13-week marathon plan. And as you remember, I called you up around Christmas time and said, send me a copy of yours. I just want to have a look at it. So we kind of modeled the 13-week marathon plan is 13 videos over 13 weeks that we ask new people to play the 20-minute video every Monday morning for 20 minutes before they do the next week, because you mentioned the word discipline and systems. It is so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I found that, Steve, I was always worried because it gets a bit complex. I at my highest point, I had 18 clients, but it was generally about 14 to 16. But I was always worried with what was in my head, sitting in a meeting with a client in the cosmetic company and asking how the steak pies were going, because I was always worried about that. And so the very, very early days of ConsultX, or the business success program, back in 2006, 2007, I built for me because I needed a system to run on, and I needed a system for the client to run on as well. So that's where the ConsultX software, that's what the sort of the legacy of it, or the sort of the background, the backstory to it was based on that, is that clients' businesses are so complex, and when you've got 10 clients or so, or something like that, it can be quite dramatic, really, can't it? And quite a lot of pressure on your thinking and your memory and things like that.
Absolutely.
So you jumped in there, you got clients. I also remember talking on the webinar a couple of weeks back, and I think I said that after you got 5 clients, you had to stop prospecting for a while to catch up, didn't you?
That's right. My 13-week plan had gone out the window.
Yeah.
Let me qualify that. My 13-week plan was still in process, but because where I was actually doing prospecting, I was now doing meetings, and I was now doing paid consultant.
Yes.
I had to slow down because I had to go back and learn the system in the process. Because by the time, I think I had 3 clients within 2 weeks. So I never actually skipped. I'd finished with corporate. I'd had my payout and everything. I was still being paid for this month. And then I was actually invoicing with it. I actually invoiced within the first month that I started this. So I never really lost the salary. But I had to learn the system. I had to slow down because I was going too fast, and I was learning how to apply the ConsultX system to my consultant. So I did slow down. At around about 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to do that, and that's pretty common. Although you got 5 quickly, most people slow down about 3 or 4, just for a few weeks, just to get on top of everything, and then they generally they've built so much momentum up in the early prospecting phases that they got plenty of prospects to sort of crank back into again.
Yeah.
Okay, so you used the ConsultX Business Success Program from the start. Can you describe to our people listening today the benefit you've gained from it?
Like I said earlier, I did a big due diligence. I've got business qualifications. I've been in business. I've had my own business. I've learned a lot through my mistakes. I guess and when I did my due diligence, I wanted a process and a system that I could take and hit the ground running. Yes, you got to actually adapt it to yourself, but I wanted to get going as quickly as possible. And there's not many businesses that you can put a small investment and actually get a return back so quickly as you can in this process. And that's what I really liked about it.
Yeah.
It's simple, it's easy to remember. And once you've been consultant, I've been doing it for 18 months to nearly 2 years now. The process is so embedded in me. It's part of me now, and it's the simplicity of it. For example, I studied at university, as you know, and I did a master's in business, and everything was just standalone. Nothing really brought it together. I think this process really brings all those components together.
Yeah,
and that's to me that's what differentiated it from everything else I looked at.
Okay, thanks for that. Can you tell our listeners how many clients you got today, and quickly what type of businesses they are?
Yes, I'm back down to 5, and there's a reason for that. As you know, David, I'm actually building up my firm. And my focus is getting my new consultants up to speed, and I'm doing exactly the same as what I did. And just to let you know, one of them's been out 4 days, and she's already got meetings booked. So the process, it wasn't just me. The process does work.
Yeah.
So the clients I've got are a wide variety. My biggest growth client is a fabricator, and what people say is that the fabrication industry is staffed and nothing. It's a terrible business, and you're stupid for going into there. Well, this client, he's been with me from the start. He was one of the first clients I actually got. He's grown 2.5 times over the last 18 months.
Wow.
And he's gone from strength to strength. So he's my fastest growth client, been with me from the start. I have a plasterer, and he started off in rescue, and now he's tricking along nicely. Again, a very competitive industry. I have a transport company. Margins on transport companies are very low, very, very, very challenging. He's grown his revenue. We've just got to get his costs down. Interesting. A lot of companies don't know what their true costs are. I've got a bathroom hire company. So a company that hires out bathroom, they're looking to franchise, so I'll be working with them. And I have got a pipeline company, very, very specialist company that does pipelines, gas pipelines. They do a lot of work on gas pipelines. And very, 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 very high quality and a very high risk client. So that's what I've got at the moment. I've got a couple in the wings. I've got a coffee company who wants to come and join me, which I'll pass over to one of my consultants. That's he roasts and grinds coffee and sells it to outlets. And I've got another electrical company, again, who I'm going to pass over to one of my consultants. So there's a lot of people in the wings that I'm just waiting to get my consultants up and ready and give them.
Yeah. Well, once again, you're following the firm owner program very closely, and because it's an important part of building a firm is that you're able to pass on the things that you've learned in your 2 years worth of education in this particular industry, and that's what they come into your firm for, is to get that training and that support. Okay, now on a negative side of things, or slightly negative, have you had any client losses or terminations?
Absolutely, and for various reasons. I guess my first loss was after 8 months. And it was that plastic company, and it was plastic manufacturing. So he used to do folders and pens and promotional stuff. He went through a divorce, and he just wasn't following the program, and we came to an agreement that we would stop working together. I still keep in touch with that client. In fact, he does my firm folders. So in my firm, whenever we present a business folder, we have a proper produced folder. He still does that for me, and I still speak to him on occasions. One of my clients left me and came back, realized that what he was missing. So that was that was quite nice. One client, and this was a big learning exercise for me. I had a boat manufacturer, a plate boat manufacturer, and we worked together for just over a year. And then finally, we were doing there's a part where you do the coaching side. And I'm more technical. I'm not really, I'm not really the type of guy you come to for a hug and to tell you that you're doing well. I'd rather tell you how you're doing. And these two guys, they came to me after that because I didn't feel they were getting the benefit. Their business was grown and everything was in place. And they came to me one day. They said, "Look," he says, "we dread you coming around here." And I says, "Why?" And they said, "Everything you're doing is really good, but you just give us too much. It's just too much." And I says, "Okay." I says, "Do we need to cut this down?" He says, "No. I says, "Look, we love what you've done. We want to leave on good because we might call you in, and I've done some work for them since." And that was a learning exercise for me. I was so excited and so confident and so great with this system, and I've got to tell them as much as possible. and you've got to be aware of that, because I was over consulting, if that
Okay.
makes to the clients, So in our meetings each too much, I was getting all these tasks, and I was getting and we did great things. We put in a full production system, so that was wow, that was a big learning curve for me, and I think I've learned since, and I think I've got a happy medium, and it's different with each client.
Yeah.
Um, and then I had a very interesting one. I had a guy, IT company, and I did do an IT company project, and that was for a 3-month project to do a part of the business success program. I still
Yep.
used the software and everything. We just did a marketing program for them, and we
Yep.
implemented that, and that took 3 months.
Yep.
And that was I got paid very well for that, but it was from start 3 months to the finish 3 months, and
Okay.
that was quite good. And then another IT company, he just didn't pay me, so I stopped working with him. So there's all variety of things there.
I think it's important to realise that we, although we don't work on an hourly rate, we actually need to think like that. And if we find that we've got ourselves a client and he's from our time point of view, he's expensive, then we need to do something about it. And what I used to do was every Christmas, because I consulted for almost totally 5 years in a row. So there was 5 Christmases, and I got into this habit of every December I'd have a really hard look at my client base, and I would terminate 1 or 2 people, and these were for reasons of didn't do the work, didn't pay me, or in some cases, they were so slow that they achieved nothing. A whole variety of reasons, but I'd also have clients that wanted more of my time and then willing to pay for it. So I would let go 1 or 2 during December, and then in January I'd pick up 1 or 2 new ones. So I was always culling my client base to keep it strong. So I remember I used to have these pie charts, and I used to have I can't find them now, but they had all the industries I worked in, like IT and pies and cosmetics and so on, and on one pie chart. And it equaled $72 million was the total number of the revenue that I was working with. And then I had all of the earnings but the fees that I got from all of those various places. And I had another chart which showed the amount of time that I was putting into it. So I was able to calculate all these things out, and I was able to weed out the ones that were just not profitable enough for me. But it wasn't like I was walking away from them. There was generally other issues in the background, like not willing to do the work and all various other things that, or also some people I just didn't get on with. There was always one person. I remember this guy south of the Gold Coast who was the grumpiest guy I've ever come across in my life, and I used to dread going down there. It was about a 60k drive, and I used to I'd be sort of dreading it all the way down, and then hating it while I was there, and hating it when I went back home. And he was $6,000 a month, so he was a really good fee, but I just didn't get along, and I'm sure he didn't like me either. So I just terminated him in December, and we shook hands and went separate ways. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you need to groom your client base, and once you get going and you've got a number of clients, then that's when you can groom them.
Absolutely.
The next question we're going to go through, you kind of answered here, but let's go back to something we talked about a few minutes back about the time of your clients. You said that you've got one that goes right back for almost 2 years.
Yes.
What's the lifetime of the other ones that you got? How old are they?
Well, the bathroom company, they were my 5th client, and
Yep.
we had a break, and then he wanted to come back to me, so we parted company. It was exactly what you were saying. I was doing far too much work for the fee he was giving me, and he didn't really want to pay any more, so we parted. Now he's come back.
Yep.
I guess my shortest has been 3 months, but that was a project.
Yes.
And my shortest, long term client was probably 8 months, which was a plastics company.
Yeah.
So the other ones have been ongoing. They're just as they came on, I've kept them. So I haven't really lost too many clients.
No.
I think 4 or 5 over the period, and so yeah, that's really, and I think that's because the acquisition. If I can, don't want to jump around too much, but if you follow the acquisition process, by the end of the acquisition process, you know if you're going to work with these guys.
Yeah.
So I reckon if we didn't have that 3-stage acquisition process that we have, I'd probably have a lot more failures, because I think you get to know the person, and by the time you get to the second meeting, you know whether you want to work with this guy or not, and he
Yeah.
probably knows whether he wants to work with you or not. So
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's helps with the longevity of my particular clients. I know other people in the network have had clients much shorter,
Longer.
longer and shorter. Yeah.
Oh, longer and shorter. I was thinking of
Yeah.
Stephen Auckland, who he's got 3 clients that he's had for over 5 years.
Yeah.
And he said to me the other day he doesn't see it ending. So
Yeah.
that's the sort of relationship they want to build. And we talk about this in training and in some of the other podcasts that we don't want to be a project or an assignment-based consultant, because you're continuously looking for clients all the time. We work long-term with them. That doesn't mean you can't do an occasional project like you did, but
Yeah.
the long-term clients is where the money is, because you're just building a business one brick at a time, a brick being a client, until you got yourself a nice wall, that just it works better too, because you may remember that in my first year of consulting back 2005, I was a project and assignment based consultant, and I did 9 jobs in the first year. And when I went back to see those people, all of the business plans that I had given to them and the implementation plans, most of them had done nothing.
Yeah.
And I thought I'm a sham. I've wasted. Well, they paid me $300,000 in that first year collectively, and hardly anybody had done anything at all. So that was in year 2 when I thought I got to be the implementation guy, and I got to be there, just like you are and everybody else in the network. I've got to be there to make sure that these business plans actually come to life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hmm. So, could you tell our listeners a bit about your lifestyle as a consultant today when compared to a normal employment job?
Yeah. Well, when I was working in corporate, I was working 16 hours. Obviously, I was trying to turn a business around, which was going down the tubes quickly.
Yeah.
But even when I was working in IT, I worked in Africa for many years. You often work, 16, 20 hours a day when you're doing tenders and things like that. So it was, that's always been the sort of business I want. I've been involved in. I guess since I've been a consultant managing my own time, and I've had my own business before, but I guess when I had my last business, which was an IT business, I was working as hard as I was in corporate. But since starting this business, I have had a much better lifestyle. We have had a lot more holidays. Even at my busiest, I book all my meetings on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. Monday afternoons as well. And the reason is most of the clients Monday mornings and Fridays they're hectic, so they don't really want to consult. So I've kept that free. This is just my way of doing it. I've kept those free, and I've always done administration on there. But if I wanted to go away, I can. But it's like any business, you can see me at my desk at 10 o'clock at night if I'm doing a management report or something. But that's not because I have to. It's because it's fresh in my mind. There's nothing happening, so I do it. So I really enjoy being in control of my destiny. I've always been a great planner, and one of the things with doing this job is I'm not too affected by other people's inefficiencies. I'm very disciplined. My reports are done on time. I schedule my meetings, and I'm there for my meetings. And so I'm really in control of my own destiny. And now that I'm building my firm, my focus has changed, but I still use the same disciplines. And I've got my new consultants. I've got them. I'm trying to get into them, installing those basic disciplines.
Yeah.
that I was lucky enough to get in the army, but have served me well through my whole life.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I suppose I got it. There's a bit of that in me too. Was I came from an army family. Like my father was in the British Army and later the New Zealand Army, and my mother was in the British Army. So a bit of that kind of bled into me, I suppose. Because I think I'm pretty disciplined and organised, and probably not as much as you, but almost, almost. Okay, could you just give our listeners a bit of advice on the best way to enter the consulting profession and why? And I want to jump in. I want to put a bit on the end of this, and the reason is that that there are lots of people. There are thousands and thousands of people who are going to listen to this podcast, and they're listening to the podcast because they want to become a business consultant, and they're thinking about what is the best way to do this. And back in 2005, I wanted to be a business consultant. So I started looking everywhere using Google, and there were who are the other big ones? Yahoo was big, and other ones, and I scoured the world to find a system. So I actually recognised early on that I needed a system, and I couldn't find anything. And so the whole of Thexton Armstrong and ConsultX, it all came out of David deciding that he needed to build a system for himself, a system that he couldn't find anywhere in the world. So you've been through the process. You've had a really good look around before you joined us, and you've used our system. So anybody out there who's thinking of becoming a consultant, have you got any advice for them?
Well, yeah. I'd still say do your own due diligence so that you prove yourself. Don't take my word for it. That's what I did. I looked at I think it was about 25 consultants that had companies, branches, offices, and things in Brisbane. I looked at every single one of them. I looked on their website. I phoned a few of them. I even went to see a couple of them at the show, and that. A lot of them were very hairy-fairy. Like I mentioned before, I'm not a coach. I tell my clients not a coach. In fact, occasionally when they call me a coach, they look at me worriedly, and I just glare at them. I'm a technical consultant. Don't come to me for a hug because I'm the wrong guy. I'll definitely listen. I'll definitely listen to you, and I'll definitely show compassion. But I'm not a coach. I'm a business consultant, and I'm technical. I'm a technical position, a businessman. I look at businesses, I look at numbers, I look at activity, I look at all those things. So go and do your due diligence. Look at this system. Could you build this system? Could you build this system yourself? Probably, if you've got an MBA and you've been in business 25 years. But do you want to? I was earning within 2 weeks. I'd actually was sending out invoices within 2 weeks. In fact, I was in so much of a flap because I had to get invoices out because I brought on clients much faster than I thought. I had to go and buy Xero to get going. But do your due diligence. Look at what your return of investment is. How many businesses can you buy out of a box and then start earning within a month, 2 months? Okay.
Yeah.
And then earning, and I wasn't as good as David, but I earned around about 180K on my first year. So that gives you an idea of what you can. That was turnover, not what I earned. That was my turnover. So how many businesses can you go out, put that sort of investment in, and go out? Look at that, okay? But and then make a decision. It's if you've got the discipline and the motivation and the desire to do this. That's what you got to do, and it's got to be right for you. This was very right for me. This fits me. Yep.
You also got to think too, I suppose, about all the other types of businesses that are out there, like the millions of franchises and other businesses of a sale, and people that leave corporate and they go into business and they mortgage their house and they need to cover payroll and inventory and machinery and on and on, debtors and creditors. Accounts receivable, accounts payable. They call them different things around the world. Yeah. So yes, you think about that. You think about this business, and what do you need? A car, a mobile phone, and a computer. Essentially, that's all you need, and an internet connection. And we've all got that right now. So you're right in what you say. Like the risk going into this is so much lower than anything else.
Yes.
It's a no-brainer, really. Okay, that's great. So I'm going to close this interview now, but before we do, can you give our listeners a couple of gold nuggets of advice that'll help them in their consulting career?
Absolutely. So the first one, again, get a plan and stick to it. So put your plan in place and stick to it. Only change it when it's going to benefit or the original plan's not working. But your goals and everything else should be set, and you should go for it. If you find that you're wobbling a bit and you're failing, just keep going, because I guarantee if you keep doing the activity and the things that you're supposed to do, it will come right. Follow the system. Especially the acquisition system. I've been involved in some great sales tools and complex selling initiatives through my career. This acquisition system is, I believe, is the best. Definitely up there with the top two that I've used. Follow the system, then follow the business success program system, because that is also second to none. Talk to everybody. If you're going to get involved in it, talk to everybody. Everybody needs help. They just don't know it yet. You just have to let them know that they do need help and that you're the person to help them. That's one thing I've learned. I talk to everybody, friends, family, rugby teammates, or everything. I keep talking to them. The other thing, and this is something I do, I enjoy it. I enjoy it every day. It's not a job. It's a vocation. And it allows me the flexibility to go and do things that I want to do. I've done about 5 or 6 courses, high level courses, since I've started. I'm always educating myself. I'm always investing in myself, and I still use a business success program, but these things just support it. But enjoy it, and that's the other thing. And then finally, believe in yourself. Back yourself. Those things, that's what I do every day.
Yeah, and you're doing a good job at it. Well, thanks for that frank and interesting interview. I'm sure our listeners have gained a lot from it. That's really good.
All right. Thank you, David. And
no trouble at all.
I'm pleased to be on the show. And anybody who comes on, really wish you luck. And if you ever need to chat to anybody, I'm on the Facebook, and I'm free. I'm happy to talk to anybody.
Great, thanks for that. So just before we go, I'll just talk about ConsultX for a minute. And ConsultX is an online cloud-based consulting system, as everything you require to become a successful business consultant. With over a decade of development, ConsultX offers you a unique opportunity to enter the profession of business consulting with a complete system ready to run straight out of the box. In other words, once you sign up for the subscription service, you have access to everything you require to become a business consultant. Now, ConsultX provides a comprehensive web-based training program where you work your way through a video training program at your pace, learning all the important information that we've developed over the last decade. And if you want to know more, go to the website, which is www.consultx.com. I'll repeat that, www.consultx.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this weekly podcast at iTunes or Stitcher. And the podcast is called Everything Business Consulting, and it comes out every Wednesday. So thanks everybody for listening, and we will see you next week on the next podcast.